All right, we're here today on our podcast with Jeremy Applebaum. Thank you so much for coming in our podcast today, Jeremy.
Of course, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what I wanted to first learn, and I'm sure every listener, if we don't know who Jeremy Applebaum is what does your team look like? But before we get there, how did you get started in the world of real estate, and then what made you kind of go into becoming a team leader?
Sure. Well, it's a fairly quick story. My father fell into the real estate business kind of by necessity in the mid 1980s, and kind of quickly grew his business and got into the home building and development business, which is really where I went after college. And I had kind of intended on remaining in that home building industry really throughout the rest of my career. And then the recession hit in 2008, and my dad kind of folded our business, and I kind of stumbled around trying to figure out what to do and got a job for 2 weeks, quit that job after 2 weeks, realized I couldn't work for somebody else. And my mother said, you're really good at selling real estate. I'd already had a real estate license at that point since 1996, and just kind of dove in, and it just kind of blossomed from there.
So you
So
had your
really, it was kind of in
license
my blood.
in 1996.
I did
Did you have
at the
that
age
because
of
of
18.
the building side of things? Is that
I
why you
I
had it?
grew up in the business, going to
Mm,
open houses, enjoying spending time with my dad and my mom, like designing homes and showing homes and all that. And I just thought that's what I was gonna do. Like I wanted to be a doctor. I knew that I didn't have the skill set for that, and I felt like the limits were limitless, if you will, in real estate. The sky was the limit, and I could
right.
take that as far as I wanted to go. And so I needed to have a real estate license in order to do that. I wanted to be able to add more to the family business.
Well, you and
So I
I
got
have that
licensed
in
as a plumber
common.
before senior year in high school.
Oh wow. I did not start that early. So I am also a realtor by second generation,
I
but
forgot
I
that.
but I started after I had my first baby. So I did not have my first baby in high school. So um I've also grew up in that industry. So what made you go from solo? Like how long did you solo sell until you decided to be a team leader?
Yeah, so I kind of solo sold and did everything myself, all of my own marketing, all of my own everything from that 2012 state until about 2015. And in 2015, really my first hire was a transaction coordinator, if you will.
Yep.
And then later in 2015, my wife joined and started handling all of our marketing and events and client relationship stuff. And then it just kind of grew from there. So it wasn't until 2018 that I actually brought on an additional agent. And one of the reasons was that my father was still healthy and he had a license, and we were doing some building and developing together. So my time wasn't as needed on our new homes as it is in today's market. And so I hired my first agent onto our team, or the team, in 2018. And then it just kind of grew from there. So our next hire was like an operations coordinator, operations manager. So somebody that could really like kind of give more hands to the business than transactions, then marketing, or then the two agents. And then we just have kind of grown from there.
That's interesting. So am I hearing this correctly? You kind of just started to bring people on as you started to get busier, or was there a strategy behind like, hey, I want to start a team? Or is there
There
both?
was not a strategy behind it until probably partway through a couple of years of coaching with Tom Ferry. It was just kind of like, well, the next move really should be, because you've got this skill set, because you can't service the leads that are in hand, and because you're telling me that you're not even delivering the kind of service that you want to be delivering to your own clients. You've got two choices. You either need to scale down and do less alone, or with Lerone and Allison, who were kind of my teammates at the time, or you need to scale up in order to take better care of your clients. And
Interesting.
and that's really how it grew. Was I knew that I couldn't serve. I had this want to be able to serve everyone. And I've been lucky enough to have a lot of great experiences where people have referred me clients. And in order to serve them, I needed to have more boots on the ground.
Yeah.
As the market in our area got busier, it was impossible to show 4 or 5 people on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday. It was just impossible.
Right. You're only one person.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that's it. That's definitely a trend that I've been seeing as I've been talking to other team leaders. You guys all share that same, we can't be everything to everyone all at the same time. And we need to leverage people, right? So in terms of leveraging people, what does your team look like now that you have been doing this for a little bit?
Sure. So we have 4 licensed agents plus myself. We have a licensed operations manager. We have our transaction manager. We have my wife who handles our marketing. My wife has a marketing coordinator assistant. And then we have a superintendent that runs our home building business.
So you still have the home building side?
We do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you do and then your agents, do they do buying and selling, or are they just buyer agents, or what? How does that look like?
You know, from the very beginning, it seemed to me that the best thing I could do for them was to help them grow, and to the point where they left the nest. They left us and I had to hire someone new. And I didn't feel like I could properly do that, limiting an agent to a particular category. Now, you know, most of our teammates primarily serve buyers, but they're younger agents, and that seems to be how the business has always progressed.
Yeah.
And what this NAR settlement has shown me more than anything, the reason that new agents have more buyers than they have listings is because the buyers are way more trusting than they should be. That's what I've figured out. You don't have to prove your worth and your value to the buyer in the same fashion that you have to do with the seller. And so it's easier to gain trust with a buyer. I can meet you at an open house. I seem super nice. I'm put together. And it's like, oh, I'm not working with an agent. You happen to be available to show me the next house. We hit it off. We both have 3rd graders. And all of a sudden I'm working with you. And you are probably not the best fit for me.
Right. Because when people look to list their home, they typically interview a handful of agents to figure out who's best to represent, who's going to have the best package, who's going to best serve me. But when it comes to buyers, my buddy is a realtor, right? Who sells houses on the side. And so I totally hear what you're saying, because and I think it is this interesting transition, because you see when they're new agents always start with buyers, but that's because most people don't want to hire a brand new agent with no experience to help them sell their $2.5 million house.
But for some reason, we're hiring them to buy one.
Yeah.
And I am very fearful for the agents that are not either being mentored or on a team with someone that knows how to help support them through the conversations.
Yeah.
I personally think that in the United States, the end is probably coming of working with Uncle Jimmy to help me buy my house when he's done wallpapering, or working at Home Depot, there was a lot of people in our market that they made their living full-time working at Hallmark Cards or working at Sprint, and then they were selling real estate in the evenings. And I just don't think that if you're selling 6 or 8 homes as a buyer's agent only over the course of a 12-month period, that you're going to have the skill set necessary to navigate the new market that we have now entered. In Kansas City, we have entered it as of yesterday, or the 14th, and nationwide we'll be entering it as of tomorrow. So I think that people will have to level up on their skills significantly in order to succeed.
Well, and that's the thing too, is with your team, do you provide training for them to level up? I'm assuming you do, because you're obviously saying, hey, for people who are not on a team, you have to find this training yourself. You've got to be able to figure this out. And it's hard to stay on top of trends. And you've got real estate trends like marketing, but then you've also got just the sales skills and this communication skills. So what kind of training do you normally provide for your agents in your team? What does that look like in terms of meetings or trainings or stuff
right?
like that?
So I'll tell you that we pivoted to weekly meetings several years ago. And what we do is we alternate team meetings every other week with one on ones with the agents every other week. And during the team meetings, I spend my time helping them understand how to navigate scenarios and build skills. I don't want to call them objection handling because I think that sounds negative and almost dirty, but they're communication skills that are necessary to be confident, to
Mm-hmm.
be comfortable, and to show value in this industry. And, one of the things that we did was, I don't remember the exact day, but let's say it was March 15th. I remember it like it was yesterday. It wasn't that long ago. When they announced that the settlement was being made, I stopped our one-on-ones immediately and pivoted to every week skill building on how are we going to be more confident, be more comfortable, provide more value, provide more service, because there's going to be more competition. I think there will be fewer agents selling more houses.
Yeah.
Um, and in our one-on-ones, we specifically talk about what's going on in your business. I'm not overly into analyzing numbers because we're not currently buying leads, and I'm not against buying leads, but we're not buying leads. So I want to know, who are you working? Where are they at in the process? How many people did you talk to recently? And like, how are you spending your day? If I find out that you're, going to yoga at 9 a.m. and lunch at 12:30 with your mother-in-law, that's not how you should be spending your day if you want to be successful in real estate. And there's a unique mix of agents and how they do things.
I
Um,
like your wording, unique. Now, to in fairness, you could build a business and go to yoga at 9 and have lunch with your mother-in-law at 12:30. However, there's got to be some work done before that in terms of building your steady business and like what does success look like to you. In your team, do you have a sales requirement in terms of how much production an agent is doing?
I mean, that's like a killer question, and I wish I could answer with yes, but I don't. And I think that has helped me actually grow as a team leader and grow as just a person mentally. I can't want it more than they want it, and they have to give
Absolutely.
me permission to hold them accountable. And so I tried for too long to push the agents because I felt like they could do more
Mhm.
and that they were spending too much time getting their nails done or having drinks at the bar with a friend or whatever it was and not working. But I can't want it more than they do, and they have to be happy with their success, and I have to be happy that they're happy. And so we currently do not have a sales requirement. I am considering that that may be something that we have to do moving forward, just to create a culture of success on the team and to know that we do kind of have some standards. So it's not just a place to drop your license.
Well, when you talk about that, it reminds me of parenting my teenager because he has to figure out what he's doing in life and he needs to want it more than I do. And
Right.
as a coach, as a team leader, you see the potential that they have, but they have to
Right.
find it themselves, like you said, right? If they don't want it, then it just becomes now you're just pushing and pulling and they're not having fun anymore and they don't want to be a part of it anymore. But you also have expenses, I'm assuming, as a team leader.
That is correct.
So
We do have
if
expense.
you're just paying all this money and sales aren't coming in, who's paying for that differential when it comes to that, right? I was going to ask you about your leadership style, but from what you've shared with me, it sounds like you're very involved with hands-on. Are you still selling real estate too, or are you mostly focused on
Yes.
growing the team?
No, I'm absolutely still focused on selling. If I had enough agents that were selling enough houses, then I would be more focused on growing the team. But
Okay.
in order to pay the salary of all of our teammates that are on
Yes.
salary, somebody has to sell houses.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
no, the bulk of the production is still mine.
Yeah.
It's still higher than I wish it was. But at the end of the day, production is really what produces the most income.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that I'll ever be fully out of production, no matter how big the team gets or how successful the team is. And I really feel that you have more to give the team when you are actually in the trenches on a buy and a sell side on a consistent basis. Now, you don't have to sell 100 homes a year, but if you're selling 15 or 20, you can see what's going on.
Right. Yeah, you can see how people are changing or
It's
not
one thing to
changing or
analyze data, it's another thing to see it in action.
yes. Well, and then to have that again, like going back to leadership style, when you're talking and coaching your agents, if the agents are like, "Well, you're not doing it," right? But they have a different respect when someone's actually on the ground floor with them, also doing the same thing. So
One
I
of the
think,
best things that I do is I do an open house. Now, I don't do an open house every weekend. I don't even necessarily do one every month. But when I do one, I do it the way that I preach, which is I blitz the signs everywhere. I door knock the neighborhood. I turn on music, right? I don't park on the driveway. I do all the things that you should do if you're holding an open house. And then they can't say, well, you wouldn't know, you don't hold open houses.
right.
And then I get to say, hey, by the way, like I sat there all day and nobody came. Or guess what? I sat there and one thing came, and I convert them into a buy and a sell. And that motivates them. Oh wow, he's doing it. He's doing open houses.
Mm-hmm. He's doing what
He's
he's
like
asking
us.
us to do. Mm-hmm.
That's correct. That's
So
correct.
when it comes to your team culture, what would you say your team culture is? Like, and how are you controlling the narrative of what the team culture looks like? Like, what do you want it to be and what do you think it is?
I think our team culture is really good as far as from a support standpoint. We all have each other's backs. They know that I've more than likely been through the situation or I understand how to navigate it so they can feel comfortable coming to me. I don't think that unfortunately we've got this amazing outside the work world relationship. And a number of the reasons relate back to one thing and one thing only. The majority of our team has young children, and there's not a lot of extracurricular time that's available. They're at sports activities, they're at doing this or that or the other. Like, I would love to involve the team and their families in some more activities, maybe even on a quarterly basis. But it's like we don't have time for our little family of four to spend much time together. And so I hate to spend it outside the workplace with them when I'm already with them all day long. And that's something that I'd love to focus on, you know, moving forward is, you know, as all of our children age, like finding a babysitter and being able to kind of, hey, like, I see you beyond just dollars. I see you beyond a work relationship. I think that's an important thing to have on a team, and we just aren't quite there yet.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty. I mean, that's what happens when you do have a young family and it's such a especially if they're also in that same boat. They also probably feel the same way you do too. They're like, I want to
They
see my
do.
family, right?
I think they probably would like a different relationship, and we try and go, you know, we try and go out and grab a drink or something from time to. It's like, well, I can't go this late because I've got school, and I can't go this early because I shouldn't be having a drink at 2, but I gotta pick up the kid by 3:30. And I hate doing something that's like 7 of 9 people can come or 6 of 9. It's like I want to have
Right.
the bulk of people. Like we had a
Yeah.
baby shower for one of our teammates, which we put on that I thought was awesome. And like we couldn't get everybody there because at the last minute, 2 or 3 people had something that popped up, and that just kind of stinks. But I have to accept that that's what it is. In the same fact that I know that you can sell 20 homes, but you choose to sell 11.
Right. Yeah, that's a dilemma for sure. And I mean, the reality is, but whether it's a team or social any social function, you can't always get everyone together. But it's interesting because you can still build culture outside of just outside things. There's culture within. And it sounds like your culture is something that you might want to continue to shape, like we were talking about maybe we need to put some production as part of our culture so that it becomes not a pressure thing, but hey, we're all success, because success breeds success, right? So to
That's correct.
have that culture and vibe amongst you guys is all super important too,
For
but
some reason,
takes
I've
time.
always been scared of letting someone go, and I don't know why. And I was talking with one of our coaching friends, and he said once you get yourself to 8 or 10 teammates, agents, licensed agents, it's much easier to let people go. He's like, when you're at that 3, 4, 5, he's like, you're all too close, and it's
Hmm.
hard to let somebody go because they're not performing, because you like them, and they're happy, or you think they're happy and they don't want it or they don't need it. He's like, but once you get to 8 or 10 or 12, he's like, all of a sudden it's like, if they're not performing, it's easy, you just let them go.
And it seems
So
heartless, but at the same time, someone is
running a
paying the
business,
bills. Exactly. You're running a business.
I mean, my overhead is huge.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Real estate teams
So
don't have the smallest bill on the world and the planet.
no.
I used to have one. I know. And I think other team leads, as they listen to these podcasts, can realize, oh, he has a high bill too. Okay, I'm not crazy. Because it is really hard to have a lower overhead when you are basically feeding so many different people, whether it be with your salaried staff and then leads. We hadn't even talked about that yet. It's just like, how does that get built? Now, when it comes to um, helping your team, you talked about the one-on-one meetings that you have. Do
Right.
you guys do anything else to grow your communication skills or to encourage them learning how to build their production sales goals? Do they, like your Tom Ferry coaching client, do they go to the summit? Do they go to the events or anything like that?
I've only had my wife, who's our marketing director, and Sarah, who's our operations manager, actually come to Tom Ferry events. I have had them enrolled in some of the classes. I was a mastery team member for a while, so there were a lot of additional resources, and I let them tag on to some of those things. But I mean, we do talk about production within our one-on-ones, within
Yep.
our team meetings, as far as like how to get there, how to gain clients, how to have those conversations. Um, but I think it hasn't been my focus. And one of the reasons is for the last 6 or so months, I've been so focused on ensuring that they were prepared for tomorrow
For
that
the
I've
big
had to let a
NAR.
lot of things go with the
Yep.
with the big NAR settlement. There's a lot of changes, and honestly, I know that I'm going to be fine, but
Hmm.
I'm fearful for a lot of those around me.
Yeah,
I
you want
just
to
am.
equip them with their skills.
Yeah.
Well, and positioning value is something that as realtors we're always challenged to do. But now with this settlement, it's just putting it, you can't ignore it anymore. You can't just get
No.
away with just making it by. So that's really interesting. Do you feel that the one-on-one trainings have helped them? And then have they been talking to, do they talk to each other? Like, how does your team operate in terms of like them talking to each other and practicing
They
with each
absolutely
other?
talk to each other. They help each other out. They're not role playing together. They're not prospecting together. I have every single team meeting. I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold a prospecting session at 11 o'clock on Thursday. No, no takers. It's like
Right.
that's not their thing. It's not the way they want to do it. Now, we kind of have a unique setup. So, three other team leads and myself kind of I don't know how to say it other than we planted our flag in a big way as far as it relates to our brokerage brand in Kansas City. And, we're part of a virtual cloud based model. There's no franchise or whatever, but we kind of came together so that we would be more accepted within the local marketplace. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
if we're planting 1,000 transactions together, people will take us seriously, which is what we're doing. And so we also leased space together, and we share that space with other people that are in our marketplace that are looking for shared space that are in the real estate
Yep.
business.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are hosting basically these giant in-person masterminds 4 times a month on Thursdays. So there's a lot to be benefited from that because they get all of the training our virtual brokerage provides if they log in and check it out, and then they get all of the additional training that we provide every Tuesday as a team, and then they get access to everything that we're providing kind of as a network on
Yeah.
Thursdays in
So
person.
they have lots of training opportunities, and none of it is a requirement. It's just like an optional thing.
We have no requirements because in the
Yeah.
United States, 1099 contractors can't be required to do anything.
Right, because everyone's technically a contractor when you are a
That's
realtor.
correct. That's
Interesting.
correct. And I've even cautioned myself with standards. So like,
Right.
I'm not interested if you're not interested, but if I see something in you, then we're going to take a shot at trying to make it work.
Right. That's really interesting. So it's a different thing to navigate around is you don't have necessarily you're the boss and you have employees. You have a whole bunch of contractors working with you.
Right.
And how do you help motivate this team? You've got training. You've got the ability for them to do well. You talk to you provide some great support. And it's just at the end of the day, it does come down, and I'm sure other team leads listening can relate to you. Like, how do you motivate that agent or agents who just don't want to go? Because trust me, I feel you. There's a reason I don't have a team anymore. Right? Like there's
Some days I wonder if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, right? Because it's just like I have to sell these. If I could just sell on my own, I don't have to sell as many houses versus
That's right.
doing this thing. And I think there's a place for a team, like you mentioned earlier. I think there are agents that need the team because they're not necessarily, you didn't come into real estate to become a team leader. Now, I know some agents come in with a gusto and they're like, I'm going to come onto a team to learn from Jeremy, and then I'm going to go out on my own.
right.
You've got that type of ambition, and then you've got almost the extreme of, I'm just going to come in because he's going to feed me and I'm going to make money because I'm part of a team. It's hard to find that unicorn of I'm loyal to the team, I'm going to work really hard, and I'm going to give it all. It seems like it's more of a unicorn. Since you started the team, have you seen a lot of transition? Do you have the same agents? Like, how's that working for you?
We've had zero turnover so far.
Okay.
I don't exactly know how that happens. That's
Zero
probably,
turnover for like 10 years.
When you have no standards and you have no requirements, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But I am truly a believer that I wasn't a believer in of a Tom Ferry comment a number of years ago where he said that teams were the wave of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the big reason is they're going to control the majority of the listings, and they're going to have, at least in the United States, the ability to have bigger marketing budgets, have more marketing people, and acquire more leads. I mean, if you think about it, the reason that Zillow is where Zillow is because realtors aren't calling their past clients, because realtors didn't deliver value the last time they sold a home. And a team, if properly run, should deliver more value. I mean, I don't believe there is a agent on our team that could have the kind of marketing that we offer them. I mean, they have a custom marketing piece that goes out every single week to their sphere as it relates to a newsletter. They have a custom written, it is not a can, it is custom to them with their face that goes out to their sphere every week. They have the ability to have custom postcards, not a canned postcard, to go out to their farm every month. I mean, we have incredible social, like everything is very localized. We have a lot we can offer, and I think that we have the ability to feed another 10 or 12 agents on our team in the next 10 or 12 months, and that's kind of where I'd like to take things is to get us to 10, 12, 15 agents and kind of see where that goes, ride that for a little bit, and then kind of see if do I need to dial it back to none, or do we kind of keep going from there?
But it sounds like you have so much to offer, and I think that's exciting to see. Like you said, it teams, what I've noticed too is it's kind of taken over way back. So we're both realtors from growing up in it. It used to be that people would expect their brokerages to do what teams now do, right?
That's right.
And brokerages have shifted substantially, and I don't know when that was, but teams just took over. One of the agents I was talking to was saying they didn't see, because he's been in the business a very long time, just as long as my dad. And he was saying teams in his market didn't really come out until about the last 20 years. Because prior to that, it was just agents that were soloing. Because I asked him where he came. Like, team wasn't even a thing. And then sometimes, I'll be completely honest, sometimes I think realtors think they need a team because it's just the next step, right? Like, I was part of the Tom Ferry ecosystem as well too. It's like, that's the next step. If you're not going there, you're not going anywhere, right? And I think
that's the biggest problem with teams in 2024
yeah,
is teams that should not be teams. And there are many, many, many of those. And I see them in our marketplace. It's somebody that sold 10 homes and all of a sudden they're going to start a team. And that's not how or why you start a team. You have to have something to offer. And I see those teams implode all the time or just kind of chug along, and they're just like team imposters.
I think you just nailed it on the head, right? I haven't actually heard anyone say that, but it's true. Because though everyone wants to be a team, it doesn't necessarily mean you should be a team, right? Like,
I don't even know why anybody would want to be one unless it makes sense for them
right,
on a fiscal basis. Like for us,
100%.
I've got this infrastructure that I want to run my personal business. The team helps pay for it, and then we use excess capacity to help the team. And I get the ability to coach and mentor someone and help them grow their business in a way that they really couldn't do on their own.
Right.
And I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I love what you said, because if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, that's so rude, because maybe you are that person that shouldn't be a team leader. Now, I think that maybe if you accidentally did that by accident, it doesn't mean you're stuck at that, but then you got to level up. Like, you got to level up big time to do exactly what Jeremy says. Level up and make sure you are providing value, because as much as you're training your agents to provide value to the buyers and their sellers and your clients, you as a team leader needs to provide value to your team. It's the same expectation. Like, why would anyone come onto your team versus onto someone else's team? If it's like, oh, this team gives me leads, this team gives me leads. This split, right? At the end of the day, splits are whatever. It's the culture and what you're providing as a team agent. So I love that.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I literally was just getting ready to say exactly that when you said it. And if you can't provide value to a buyer or a seller, how in the world are you going to provide value to your team? Like,
yeah,
that's exactly the answer.
And sometimes I think we were taught that whole fake it till you make it thing. I don't know if I believe in that. I think that's
splits aren't everything either.
Yes, yeah. Neither is brokerages or teams.
No.
It's like you've got that serial team member who is just like trying to find the one. But if right? But if you just keep going, it's like, which is the common denominator here?
I mean, like, I love talking to agents like, well, but my team provides me like a copy machine, or my brokerage provides me a copy machine and folders. And it's like, oh, for 50%? Okay. Can't buy your own folders. How many folders? You sold 7 homes last year. How many folders do you need?
What are folders for? Like, to hold the paper contracts with the carbon copies that we don't do anymore?
Right.
I remember that. I remember the folders.
Or like, oh, they have an in-house attorney. Have you ever used the in-house attorney? No. But I really like the broker. Do you have a lot of problems? Well, no. So what do you like the broker? Well, when I'm in the
nice person.
office and I need something, they're available. Oh, okay.
Yeah, nice person.
If they're worth paying uncapped 30% to or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. But thank you so much for being on this podcast today. I know that the next episode, I want to dial in with you all about your leads. So thanks so much for watching, listening, everyone. And we'll talk to Jeremy real soon again.
Thanks a lot for having me.